Okay, so it looks like we're live and on time, so it's going to be a good day today. As usual, I did all my prayers before, so we can just start. And the usual intro, this is a series of lectures on the 24 gurus as they are described in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam by Anavadhuta to Yadu Maharaj. And we've covered 7, so we've got a long way to go, especially if it's a monthly thing. But today we're talking about the sun, and if the one on the moon was easy, you can understand how a class seeing the parallels between the sun and God, and given the guru is the one that points your attention toward God. Anyway, let's go in order, but you can see how easy it's going to be. First of all, in my usual analysis of the stereotypical man on earth, not necessarily primitive man, or just, I'm not subscribing to any particular reading of the world and world history, but if we assume just a human being going around in the world, what impressions the sun has on these persons. Ooh, what's going on? Oh boy. Apparently I've been signed out of Zoom. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, for one time, I don't know if somebody's in the chat. I really, for one time that everything was going smoothly. So anyway, there's never anybody on Zoom. So as long as YouTube is, yeah, okay. Sorry about the delay. I got notifications that I got bumped out, but it seems like I'm online everywhere and streaming everywhere. So back to the sun. So you can see that it's easy to see a link between divinity and the sun, because, sorry, I'm just maximizing. I'm just making sure I see myself both on. It's just bizarre. I don't understand. Anyway, it says I'm live, so I'm just gonna keep going. I don't quite understand who bumped me out. At any rate, it's easy to see the link between divinity and the sun and the guru. So the sun is in the sky for everyone to see, and it's like such a unmistakable expression of power, power way beyond ours, right? It's like high in the sky. We talked about the up direction when we were discussing air as the guru, how man can walk anywhere on earth, even downward, even inside the earth, but up. So up has always been the direction of divinity, and the incense goes up, the flames, the smoke, they all go up, and then rain comes from above, and sunshine, and the sun. So, and both rain and the sun are life givers. The sun is worshipped. I hope the howling monkeys are not as loud as I hear them, but the sun is worshipped, has been worshipped in all sorts of civilizations, and even in Christianity. Anyway, I won't get there, but if you know, all kinds of sun worships were replaced by the cult of Jesus Christ over the centuries, because because they had to, whatever, their agenda. But the sun is life giver, directly or indirectly. because it how would you say? Well, it causes it's intrinsic to vegetation, and then vegetation is food to other animals, and the sun causes evaporation, so it causes the same rain, which is life-giving. So um, from the point of view of the human experience, we depend so much on the earth. You can see how puny we are. We depend on the earth, we depend on the rain, we depend on the sun, we depend on air, and yet we think we're God, but we are divine. You know, it's very important to keep a very sharp mind all the time. That's why, philosophy is usually neglected, or what parent wants to hear that their child is going to get a degree in philosophy? Like, philosophy? How are you going to put money, food on the table? But philosophy is really the key to read life in the most successful way, so that you can have the most successful life. And that's why I said, all contradictions can be harmonized to some extent with a philosophical outlook. So I was saying that we depend on the earth, we depend on the sun, we depend on air and the rain, and yet we think we're God. One of some realization I've had recently is that we are not God, but God is us. So we are all teeny tiny expressions of consciousness. And consciousness is, well, first of all, has the prerogative of being impersonal as well as personal. But personality, personhood, individuality is what would you call it? A quality, or something that can be found in consciousness. So if it's found in God, it's found in us, and we're all the same. We are all consciousness expressing itself at different degrees and different ways. But in that sense, it's very good to keep in mind that we're not God, but God is us. There's nothing but God and his energies. And this will come out in the course of all these lessons, and it has been coming out because, usual reminder, that's really what we're discussing here. We're not talking about sun, we're not talking about the pigeon. The next one I dread. I don't want. We'll see, right? Because I just do my prayers, and then whatever comes out comes out. But next time we're gonna have to see how the pigeon is our guru. And yet I was saying we're not talking about the sun, about the pigeon, etc. We're talking about some much broader reality, and maybe frame through which we can appreciate reality and make the best out of it. So in that sense, everything goes. Anyway, today we're talking about the sun. Everything goes, within a certain what do you call it, parameter or paradigm. Personally, and most likely you who are listening, you've chosen the Gaudiya Siddhanta, the Gaudiya reading key for life, for reality, because it's the most fulfilling. Of course, it's being it's being taught and preached. It's being taught and brought in different ways over the centuries, based on who can understand it, and then of course it's an experience, it is a philosophy, it is a religious whole system, but ultimately it talks about an experience, and we can only do our own experience for ourselves. So no matter how many words you can spend to describe what's at the core of Gaudiya Siddhanta, you need to try it yourself. And as much as you need to try it, which seems like an active thing, an active pursuit is required of us. But this is the path of mercy, and that's when it gets all tricky, because mercy, like, if it's all God, even us, even we are sparks of God, Whose mercy are we? It's it's fine. It's fine to think in terms of we're asking for the mercy. And in the very least, it shapes our ego in the most conducive way. I'm not saying that there is no God or that there is no mercy, or far from what I'm trying to describe. But it's such an elusive concept, maybe to me, because I'm not a worthy receptacle of mercy. But I was planning on making like a very focused study of what mercy means. What is mercy? Whose mercy? To whom? Um, well, obviously we know it's Radharani, and Radharani means Shakti, but the difference between Shakti and Shaktiman, I'm going all over the place because it's what's been on my mind, and it's very worth discussing and focusing your mind on, especially because Radhashtami is coming soon. But we'll be talking about Radharani today, if I don't keep changing subject. So, mercy. How's it going from the sun to mercy? Consciousness. There, lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Anyway, it'll come back because I'm gonna go back to the sun. So I was saying, oh yeah, we're so puny and we think we're God, but we are divine. So right, if we think we're God, all of a sudden the whole point of mercy goes down the drain, and that's how you get cut short of the most intense experience that you could have, the highest possible goal that you could achieve uh, among the fullest potential that you could develop and experience as a unit of consciousness. um, in a sense, even God is limited. Even God is attracted to this mercy. If you're familiar with Gaudiya Siddhanta and the narrative, God, Krishna is after Radharani because even from his point of view, being God is not as enjoyable as being a servant of God. Because that's the other thing. If we take Radharani as mercy, then as much as she's the mercy of God to us, the compassion of God to us, from the other side, it's like a lens. If you look from the other side, if you see Radharani and mercy from God's point of view, it's seen as service, the same energy, right? We know that Radharani is both the expression of God's compassion to us and the expression of our devotion to God. This is a huge, huge topic. I didn't even know was going to come out, but it's always worth talking about these things. Okay, so the sun is merciful too. We were talking about how life-giving sun is. It causes the very rain, which also promotes life on this planet. And now, the analogy, as far as the Bhagavatam and obviously metaphors involving the moon are countless in our Vedic literature, because again, it's up in the sky. You cannot ignore it. Everybody has had an experience of the moon and water and earth, and it's always the same point until we get to the pigeon. We'll see what happens, but it's always the same point. It's like it's in your face. It's everywhere, and because Guru is everywhere, Shri Guru is everywhere, because Guru is Krishna. So it's the teaching is everywhere. And what is the teaching? I am everywhere. I'm even you, like we were saying. So the sun in the Vedas is usually mentioned, in the very least in Prabhupada's examples, because if you look in the Veda base, he mentions that all the time. In many ways, the sun is, like I said, in the sky for everybody to see. And yet, it's funny because I was going to say, and I did say, how can you ignore it? And yet you could ignore it, right? If you're a busy, oh, I don't know, mother who needs to take her children to kindergarten and then go to school and then go shopping. Yes, you know it's daytime, but you don't really think about the sun. If the sun was not there, as my Guru Maharaj Srila Bhaktivedanta Tripurari Swami says many times, you would realize if the sun didn't rise one morning. But even behind the clouds, you know it's daytime. That's how powerful the sun is. You just cannot ignore it. And still we ignore it. Because it's all about the consciousness. It's all about what you're conscious of, what you're aware of. That's why there are infinite universes, because each of us, infinite souls, has a peculiar to themselves vision and interpretation of what's going on. This is true from the most physical, material point of view. I don't know if you're as into those optical illusions as I am. I used to be subscribed to a widget of optical illusions. Like every morning it would show me one in my computer. Now I haven't. I don't know what happened. Maybe I just changed computer. But on YouTube, it's always fascinating to see how, excuse me, certain things are like clearly like that. It's like look at it clearly. I can see with my eyes. And then no, you just realize it's the brain making sense of whatever electromagnetic frequencies hit the back of your eye upside down, and based on so much input we got since babyhood. Because by the way, it'll take a few weeks for a baby to recognize a face. How? By points of reference. Okay, that thing that looks like two eyes framed by eyebrows. Okay, that's a face. And every time I hear that face, I see that face, I hear that sound, and then I get nursed, and then I get milk, and so it's all good. When I see that face, it's all good, and we don't even know, but it's all parameters. It's all experience from what it's already out there that we make sense of, and then if other people agree on a certain set of rules of things, like we could say it's daytime. In another frame of reference, somebody could say, what do you mean it's daytime? The sun is there, Earth is here, the sun is always there. What do you mean it's daytime? It's daytime here. I'm just saying everything is relative, and whatever we think is reality is just real given the parameters. And as common people, we don't think about certain things. We're like, no, this is unequivocally this within certain parameters. So the sun, so the analogy is given of the sun being in the sky for everybody. Same is true with Krishna when he was in the arena in Mathura as a wrestler. Some people were seeing him as the supreme personality of Godhead. Some people were seeing him as a Brahman. Some people were seeing him as Krishna Balaram, but let's say Krishna, as the poor adolescent son of Nanda who's going to be squashed by these wrestlers. Some people were seeing him as the the object of their, I don't want to say lust, but their lover, their hero, etc. Same reality. So the sun is in the sky for everybody to see, and yet some people ignore it. They're not as aware of the sun as, say I am a gardener, but say a gardener would be like, oh, it's a beautiful sunny day. I don't know. I can work outside. I shouldn't be planting the seeds, or I should get the sprouts away from the sun, or whatever. You're much more conscious. Everybody's got a different perception of the same reality. So that example is given. Or, usually they say the sun is setting, the sun is rising. The sun is always there. Like I was saying, it's the earth that goes around the sun, or whatever. Apparently, I'm not quite sure, but they say that the ancients thought that the sun would die, at the end of the day, and a new sun, like it would reincarnate. I don't know if it's Western white Christian propaganda to make ancient civilizations appear as primitive, or if it's the white people not understanding the poetry behind. Like, we may talk about the wings of an airplane. We don't think that that an airplane flaps its wings, or it's just a way of speaking. I always thought, even as a kid, how crude it is to talk about male and female in relation to screws and bolts and nuts, or plugs and outlets. I'm like, really? That's the best way you can. Well, whatever, it works. And clearly we don't think there's any interaction of any sexual sort between a bolt and a nut or whatever. So yeah, the sun dies every evening. Um, But the point to make is that it's always the same sun. So, you may, just like you shouldn't say that the sun rose yesterday and this is the new sun and then another sun. Similarly, you shouldn't think that um, Ramachandra and Krishna and whoever came after and whoever came before were different gods. They're just expressions of the same, supreme God, etc. Um, Another way the sun is mentioned a lot in our Vedic scripture is by having us notice that as much as the sun is the cause of so much heat and light. Oh, because by the way, that's the other one, right? Let's talk about this other one first. The example of the sun is used a lot to talk about Shakti and Shaktiman. So the sun globe, the sun disk, as it's sometimes talked about, is the source of the energy. It's intrinsically distinguishable from the heat and the radiation of heat and light that we get from the sun, but it's also one and the same. You cannot have an experience of the sun without heat and light. So again, because everybody has experience of the sun, the example is given of the simultaneous unity and diversity between Shaktiman, God, Bhagavan, and his Shaktis or energies. So the third way the sun is usually brought about is by saying that the same sun, who is the source of life and light, light means illumination, it means absence of darkness. And darkness, by comparison, means absence of light, so absence of knowledge. If there's light, I know there is a Lego on the floor and I'm not going to step on it. Or, I mean, if you've stumbled into this kind of video, you must know as far as this, that not light means knowledge and therefore darkness means ignorance. However, paradoxically, the sun is both the cause of all this light and of darkness, or of shadow. Chaya. Chaya means shadow, reflection, but Chaya is one of the names, is the name of one of the wives of Suryadev. So, well, because of the Vedic, say paradigm that the wife is submitted to the husband, subservient to the husband. So the sun, but to be honest, apart from Bhumi, I cannot think of any planet, celestial body that's not masculine, but they all have a wife or a Shakti. So Surya has Chaya. So Chaya is subservient to the sun. Shadow is subservient to the sun, just like a wife to a husband. And that's pretty much how we can see it. But yeah, the same sun that causes so much light when you put something in between, is the cause of the shadow. Without sun, you cannot have shadow. You only have darkness. So that's another important analysis. And one of my favorite verses is from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. I don't remember the number. Let me see if I have it somewhere. It's Madhya Leela, chapter 22, text 31. Krishna Surja Shama Maya, Krishna Surja Shama Maya Hoy Andhokar, Jaha Krishna Taha Jahi Maya Radhikar. It means that Krishna is like the sun. Krishna Surja Shama. Maya hoy andhakar, and Maya is like darkness. Krishna jaha, where Krishna is, taha jahi Maya adhikar. Maya has no jurisdiction. There cannot be Maya where Krishna is. And that's a really nice verse to keep in mind. So, well, so much more could be said about the sun being. So, I mean, obviously, say Mahavishnu is the both, or say Bhagavan, without getting into the detail, Bhagavan is both the source of Yoga Maya and Mahamaya, who Mahamaya would be the equivalent to shadow, to ignorance, to illusion, to not seeing clearly. And as far as, now we're going to change subject, as far as the sun being source of life and health, the sun is also very much connected with health in Ayurveda, in astrology. You know, Surya Namaskar is done, well, Surya Namaskar means a salutation, a sun salutation. And obviously it helps because it keeps you moving, so it gets your lymph going early in the morning. Ideally, you want to be barefoot, touching the ground. If you don't know what earthing is, you should look into it. I do it every morning. I make sure that well, basically when I chant my rounds, I make sure I touch the ground. Now that here that I'm lucky to live in the forest, I'm barefoot on there's like a mat of cut weeds. It's like straw, it's not muddy, or it's really nice. And it decreases the inflammation in your body by, well, basically you're grounded. So you're discharging negative, positive ions. I don't remember. But your body, your physical body is electrically charged. So you just discharge into Mother Earth, which is much bigger than you. And so everything that's sensitive to electricity in your body, so the viscosity of your red blood cells, everything that causes inflammation gets soothed by doing that. And of course, the sun exposure. I'm going to take a little detour from the highest transcendental knowledge, but you know, it'll probably give you more appreciation for the sun. And so the more you appreciate the sun, the more you are reminded that the Bhagavatam says the sun is your guru, the better everything is in your spiritual life or material life if you stop at these things. But the sun exposure, like after 15 minutes of sun exposure, the more skin you can expose to the sun for 15 minutes will produce vitamin D. There's a layer of cholesterol under your skin that, when stimulated by ultraviolet radiations, will cause, as a result, vitamin D in your body. And you know, since the pandemic, I didn't know it, that vitamin D is as essential and important for health as vitamin C. So just see how just by sitting in the sun, you get health. And then, so, you know, what I was saying, Surya Namaskar, you touch the earth, you get exposed to sun rays. And well, you do a namaskar, you worship, you show humility to something higher than you, which is always a good exercise. Every time we can do this in relation to any aspect of life, it will be good for us, for our spiritual health, if nothing else. I remember a schoolmate of mine in high school. She hated our professor, and it was just the de facto, the default mode of students. They hated the teacher, because they give us homework, because she called me to the table to talk about whatever, the Roman Empire, and I didn't know the lesson, and she gave me the low grade. Weird. If you think of the reverence and the awe and this and the indebtedness that there is in the East, in Oriental traditions, for whoever teaches you, whoever is your mentor. She was like, oh, she said horrible things about her. She was pregnant. I hope she loses her baby. So gratitude for the guru. So yeah, my a minimal appreciation for the sun. In the very, just by doing a Surya Namaskar, just appreciation. You're always good as long as you worship, as long as you appreciate, and you think yourself, well, not lower in a dysfunctional way, but you see your place. Weirdly, all the while knowing that you're divine in nature, that you are nothing but consciousness, divine substance, expressing itself, God playing. What if I was run over by a car? What if I had 10 children? What if I was a giraffe? What if I was a mafia boss? What if I was a killer? What if I was a dictator? What if I was a hero? What if I was, Satya Sankalpa, whatever Krishna thinks, God thinks, comes into place at different levels of expressions. So we're just one of those what ifs, one of those potentials, one of those possibilities. We're characters in God's dream. Um, so, but while keeping our individuality, I mean, you can see, if you're familiar with our Siddhanta, how deep a relationship you can have with God. It doesn't mean that we're like mindless characters who just, what do you call those actors that just appear in a movie? Extras or something. We're extras in God's dream. Don't see it as in a reductive way. I'm saying it quite the opposite. So, the sun is good for health, is very much linked with health, with life giving. We saw vegetation, the rain, everything on earth depends on the sun, really. And so why you understand, now you understand why the Egyptians, any Mesopotamian civilization, the Mayans, everyone has some sort of sun worship. And my guru, Dev, was fond of kind of taking people's consciousness. He ran into a lot of hippies in his day, and and he was a big book distributor, so he's fond of telling us that in many of these occasions that he would have book tables, somebody would say, oh, whatever they would say about after hearing Krishna or something, or maybe the books weren't even explicitly about Krishna, but they would say my guru would say something about their spirituality. What's your spirituality? And they would say, I worship the earth. We worship the earth. And he would say, oh, that's very good, because mother, you need to be grateful to your mother. It's a very good thing you're doing. But what about the sun? The earth, life on earth, including you, depends entirely on the sun. And they were like, oh yeah, we should worship the sun. And then somehow he would say, and what's the cause of the sun? I don't know how we'd take it from there, but we saw how easy it is to draw a parallel between sun and God. The Gayatri mantra is about the sun. Let me make a note, because I forgot about that, but there's a lot to say about. No, actually, I did make a note. Oh, I'm better than I thought. Let's see how I can stick it in. Where is it? I just lost it again. Gayatri, yeah, there it is. Okay. So he would say, what about the sun? He's also life-giving and worthy of your worship. And so this way he would like prepare create a teachable moment, as he's fond of saying, so that they would think, oh yeah, now I can see how it's all, from perspective. And then, you have God, who's the sun, who's the cause of the sun and the earth and the rain and everything. And indebtedness, what does it mean to be indebted? Grateful to who, etc. So anyway, now after this introduction, you will be surprised to hear, unless you were already expecting it, that the Srimad Bhagavatam, among the many things it says about the sun, there is one verse, another one that my Guru Maharaj is fond of quoting, and therefore one that immediately came to my mind, which you're going to hear after this sip of water. So it says, let me see if I can find the actual verse. Ayur harati vaipungsang udyanastam chayannaso tasyarte yakshano nita uttamashloka vartaya. And it means, both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. Now, I know the purport to this verse, and it's really, I'm really happy I heard the purport, or my guru's, how would you say, interpretation or commentary on it before I actually read it. In fact, I think I'm probably reading it. I probably read it for the first time a few days ago. Because, oh, by the way, this is Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, Chapter 3, Text 17. It's a bit bizarre to say that the sun, by rising and setting, decreases the duration of your life, unless you're really, tuned into the poeticity, the poetry of, unless you can get what it means. It's like, why is the sun taking my life away? Okay, what it does, except for one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of God. What? It sounds like mean or something. No, what it's really said, or not really, but let's see if we can reword it. It means that it's something that I do a lot in my own musings and analysis of the world, or to just shock people or to entertain myself. Sometimes I say, we have this vision of the world that's all, of the material world that's all idyllic, like, oh, the crickets at night, it's so nice, so romantic. And I think, or even say, they're actually shouting how aroused they are. They're saying, I'm sexually available, anyone? The cicadas that you know about here in Madhuvan. Oh boy, come February until May, it's just a bunch of, I think, male cicadas. I don't know who it is, but it's just a sex call. I'm horny, excuse my terminology, but it's all that's happening. And okay, cicadas are not particularly attractive, but the crickets, it's like, oh, so romantic, so nice, so soothing. It's just a bunch of insects communicating their sexual availability and arousal, or the delicious medicinal honey is bee vomit. You could say that way. It's bee vomit. Or yogurt, which is again so good for you and so good, is just lactobacillus something, poop, whatever remains after they've eaten sugar, and so on and so forth. Like, a flower, a tree covered in flowers. Again, flowers are sex organs. The trees are actually particularly connected with lust. They're just there, like, look at me, I'm covered in genitals, come play with my genitals. And I say this for shock factor, to see again how reality, how life is what you make of it. Tattva is shaped by bhava. What's in you, conscious being, is most important. What's out there is relative to consciousness. You know, that's why I believe Jiva Goswami or Rupa Goswami. Anyway, it's stated all throughout our scriptures and commentaries that and they word it in different ways, but like one spirit soul, one jiva is more important, more intrinsically valuable than the whole material expanse. Um, because it's like, you know, let's say the video game player is the most important thing, no matter how many levels the video game has, no matter what things happen in the video game. Oh, he died. Oh, he collected all the eggs, whatever. It's nothing. It's just pixels. It's just pixels in a computer that contain, you know, 01011 binary information about something or other, and they keep a record of how many eggs you collected. And but it's all relevant. The moment you turn off the computer, nobody cares but you, the player, who could go to dinner and keep in mind, oh my God, I scored so well. And, you know, and if somebody else was playing online, because, you know, nowadays gamers meet and they all think of how the game affected them, and they are the one who give meaning to the video game. So in that sense, one atom, one unit of divine consciousness has more importance than the whole conglomeration of material ingredients. And it has importance and it gives importance, which was my original point. What was I saying? So yeah, bee vomit. Well, you call it bee vomit. I call it honey. And I make sweets for Krishna with it. But so we were talking about the sun being life-giving, and now the same Bhagavatam says, at every sunrise, even more so at every sunset, the sun is reminding you. It's not that it's taking your life away. Okay, yes, the verse says, Ayur Harati. Harati means snatches away. Hari means he who takes away your material desires, steals your heart, etc. Harati means snatcher. So Ayur Harati means life snatcher. It takes your life away. Every day you're like watching sunset, and some people will say, oh, you know, you're on a bench with the love of your life. You're like, look at this sunset glisten on the sea. Let's kiss. And the sadhu would be like, damn, another day is gone by. And what have I done with my life? Have I, you know, absorbed my thoughts in what matters, in spiritual thoughts? And am I more self-realized than I was this morning, etc.? So it's a very, very profound verse and one worth learning. So that now we're getting to the hardcore knowledge and experience. You know, one thing is to say, yeah, the sun gives me life, the heat, etc. I feel good. Another thing is when you get to this type of realization, like, wow, one more day has ended, and what have I done? You know, it keeps you on your toes spiritually, even materially. Chanakya Pandit says, I don't know if he was the first one, but he says, we should live every day of our material life as if it was the first one, thinking, yeah, I got all life in front of me. I can do I haven't fulfilled my senses 100% in every possible way I could today, but there's still tomorrow. But we should see every day as if it was the last one in terms of our spiritual life. We should have that sense of urgency, which is a symptom of a bhava bhakta. We're not bhava bhaktas. We should still have that sense of urgency to develop a sense of urgency. We should have that type of frame in mind, outlook about life. One day is gone. What if I died tonight? I'm gonna die, and I'm not rooted in the awareness, in the belief, in the conviction that I am a servant of Krishna and Balaram. In the case of some of us, Radha Krishna, or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or Gauranitai, or Ramachandra even. Um, so that's when the son becomes guru, because guru means heavy. That's like, whoa, hardcore siddhanta there, but it's very useful. It's try to lead your life like that one day. Try to live one day thinking, oh my God, I just realized I just remember another important verse. Okay, good. We'll talk about that one too. That it's the last day of your life spiritually. Have you been as humble as you could possibly be? Have you been seeing everybody as a spirit soul, or have you thought, oh God, I can't wait to get this person out of my face? Or just see the environment. We're so good at blaming the environment for everything. It's because of this situation, it's because of the weather, it's because I don't have the money, it's because of my health, it's because of you, it's because of this. How self-realized are we? It was 4 o'clock, the day is almost over. The day ends at sunset, not at midnight. Well, I don't know when it ends. According to the Vedas, the day begins at sunrise. So you would think that it ends right before sunrise. But, given that most people go to bed, so it's by here, the sun sets at 6:30, between 5:30 and 6:30, because we're 10 degrees from the equator. So at every sunset, it's like, ooh, am I more Krishna conscious than I was this morning, than I was yesterday? Not than anybody else. You should never compare yourself to anybody else, both whether they're more advanced than you or less advanced than you. We're all on our rafters by ourselves in our life, in our spiritual pursuit. Even more so, the guru is just on his own rafter in front of us, saying, watch out for that rock, stay to the left, stay to the right. But he cannot become Krishna conscious for us. Even if the goal is liberation, he cannot become liberated for us. As much as we say that, the God, the guru, my guru liberated me, my guru saved me. Yes, by saying, get on a rafter, follow me, watch out for the rock, stay on the left here, stay on the right there. But, we really save ourselves. Once again, is it mercy? Is it our endeavor? It's one and the same. So, now another verse I remembered is from, I believe, the Rig Veda. Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam. Well, I didn't prepare this one. I don't remember it. But it says that the feet of Vishnu are like an all-seeing eye above us. And remember, once a bhakta leader, I was going to the temple in Milan in, I don't know, maybe 92. I spent a weekend, so it was like, well, there are two guests. Let's do the typical Bhagavad Gita class in the afternoon. So we learned some verses in those 2 days. I memorized. I memorized it so well. Now I know it. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptis dhiras tatra namuhyati, and matra sparshas tu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agama payino nityastan stitikshasva bharata. And somehow, in the context of explaining those two verses, he said we should behave every day as if our guru was in the room. Imagine. I mean, I took it to heart. I was like, wow, that's intense, that's profound, but I don't think I could do it one day. And I did spend 24 hours with my guru traveling and such. But, I think you should try. And the day you can do it 24 hours thinking, whoa, my guru's right here. Should I use this word? Should I act this way? Should I, use my time this way? Then, of course, we shouldn't become paranoid, but it's a very good exercise to accept theoretically, intellectually, but to put into practice as soon as you can, to the extent as you can. You can do that for 5 minutes, do it. It's a very good exercise. I don't do it myself, but I recognize it's very good. But that's what sadhana is, to keep what's important in mind, keep your guru in mind, keep and we see how easy it is. You see the sun, you see how the guru is everywhere. Not necessarily your initiating guru, it's all an expression of the same Shri Guru principle. So anyway, an all-seeing eye, the feet of Vishnu are like the sun. That's why I drew that parallel 5 minutes ago in my mind. And the sun is seen as the eye of Vishnu in the universal form. We talked about the moon last time, and now we're talking about the sun. And they can be found at a microcosmic level in the human body too. The left eye is said to be presided over by the moon, the whole left side of the body, I believe, and the right side by the sun. The sun also corresponds to the solar plexus, which is the stomach, so the fire of digestion. I'm pretty sure. And fire, sun are related. They're both sources of heat and light, and very powerful. And by giving light, they allow you to see. So the stomach chakra is connected with the sense of sight, and the fire of digestion. So your colon, the fire, this whole area is where your liver is. The liver is responsible for 500, I think 5,000 metabolic functions. It processes glucose. It recycles spent red blood cells, turns them into bile, which is, I know everything about the bile because I have gallstones. So the bile lubricates the food on its way out, and it alkalizes the pH of whatever comes from your stomach, which has pH 1, and so much stuff happens in the core of your body. And so the colon is like so many microbes. The famous microbiome is there. And so again, that's the link with health. You could see the health could be summarized as minerals. Minerals are essential, even more than vitamins. Minerals are essential at the cellular level. Every cell relies on the sodium potassium pump to exchange information, etc., etc. So they're minerals. And then calcium, you name it. And minerals are earth, and so the colon is where the food turns into mud-like substances. So that's where the minerals, everything gets absorbed. And so health of the colon, minerals, and then air, breathing. So if you go subtle, we saw in the series of lectures about pranayama that breathing is the link between our physical excuse me, reality and the mind, because the breath calms the mind, controls the mind, and with your mind you can control your breath, which if you breathe slowly enough in a relaxed way, etc., it pumps your organs, it pushes on the spine. Anyway, health. So health is physically minerals, and say mentally the air, and then energetically the sun. Besides presiding over sight and all these things, corresponds with the transversal colon and the liver, and just so you can see all these correspondences. So even if you have gallstones, you can think of the sun and have guru, etc. But where was I going with this? The all-seeing eye. So yeah, the right eye is the sun is the right eye of Vishnu, and it corresponds to our right eye too. Because as you heard me say many times, whatever is true of Vishnu, whatever is said of Vishnu, macrocosmically, is true of us. And now I'm running out of time, so I won't say it this time. Let me see in my notes if there is. We were going to talk about Radharani. I don't know if I should go longer today. I'm not going to do 2 lessons because Like I said, we still have 17 to go, and I don't know where I'll be in 17 months. And I might have to skip. We'll see. We'll see. So let's see. I talked about, oh, Pushpavanto. Yeah. Another, obviously, we talked about the moon last time. So Gaura like the sun and the moon. So we're never going to see the sun and the full moon and the sun together on the same horizon. But every time we see the sun and every time we see the moon, that's a very good occasion to think about Gaura, and our life will be perfect. And then we talked about Ayurharati. We talked about Krishna Surjashama, sun giver of health and life, but also sun taking away your life by reminding you that another day has gone by. Sun in the Gayatri. Okay, that is a very, very important thing. All of you who have initiation into the Brahma Gayatri mantra know that, again, you could take it as a meditation on the sun. Brahmana doesn't mean Vaishnav, doesn't even mean theist. You could be chanting Brahma Gayatri as a way of focusing on the divine by equating God with the sun, which is such a prominent presence in our life. And every time it arises, every day it sets. And then at noon, you see that it's right above us and it's just so prominent. Now, some people there's a bit of controversy about the Sandhya. It's like the Sandhya in the morning, yes, the night turns into day. That's a very, can't miss that. Day turns into night. You can see the birds are very excited at sunrise, at sunset. The cows butt heads, the dogs play. Here in Madhava, we see it all. The birds, the bugs. It's like a triumph of the energy is really strong. Shiva is said to go around with all kinds of bhutas, goblins and ghosts at sunset. It's an intense, it's like, oh, the day is turning into night. It's like, like an eclipse. It's a very, if you are sensitive enough energetically, you perceive all that. Animals perceive it. What was I talking about? The Gayatri. So some people don't see the Sandhya like, okay, morning turns into night. Well, the sun goes to the highest point, and then it's not as dramatic as sunrise and sunset, but that's also Sandhya. Anyway, you chant Gayatri in those times, and then you meditate on the sun, God, being this bright source of inspiration that prachodayat enthuses us. And yet, this splendid, the splendor of the sun. Yeah, how do we know that the sun is there? Because the splendor of the sun gets to us. By the way, I don't know if you know, in pop culture, on September 23rd, I think it's an astronomical phenomenon, but on September 23rd, a sun flash, a comet is supposed to hit the sun. Take it with a grain of salt. I haven't verified it with whatever, astronomy sources, but the new age people, mediums, whatnot, people into, what are they called? Conspiracy theories and whatnot. They say that on September 23rd, the sun is going to be hit by a comet, and there's going to be like a flash of some radiations coming to Earth at like an incredible speed, and it's going to cause a spiritual awakening of sort, and things will go. But people will finally see that, whoa, something. I don't know. I hope they understand that the way they've been doing politics, agriculture, treating the environment, treating people is just unsustainable, and then people are going to be more illumined that way. Let's see. But September 22nd is Radhashtami. So it's kind of interesting that between the 22nd and the 23rd, this major thing is going to happen. So stay tuned, stay open, keep your senses and your consciousness open. Let's see what's going to happen. But there's this word bharga. Bharga means splendor, right? So like we get the sun flash on September 23rd, any experience we have of the sun is because of its light. It takes 8 seconds for the sun to hit Earth, to hit our eyes. So they say that when the sun sets and you see the last bit of sun go bloop, under the horizon, that actually happened 8 seconds before, because the light takes some time to cover that huge distance between the sun and the earth. Oh, we're out of time. Let's see. Let me just push it 5-10 more minutes. So Bharga is the light of the sun that really makes the sun relevant to us. And again, I mean, how can you separate the sun from its light? Well, and yet, here we are. They're one and the same, just like Krishna are one and the same. Just like Bharga, Sri Maharaj had this realization of describing, of equating or recognizing Bharga as Radharani. So he's saying, well, the Gayatri Mantra is enthusing us, prachodayat, to serve. The Gayatri Mantra is all about Radhadasyam. Like you thought it was a meditation on the sun. And well, who's the sun? The sun is Krishna. And Radharani is enthusing us by being Krishna's mercy, and she's also the vehicle, prachodayat. She enthuses us to do what? Service. And she is service. So every service we do to Krishna is perceived by Krishna through Radharani in a very generic way. So, well, that's 2 words spent on the Gayatri Mantra. There's a whole book about it, so I suggest you look for that. Let me see if I can squeeze something more. Well, luckily I covered everything. Well, Radharani is the daughter of Bhanu, Vrushabhanu. Vrusha means rain, Bhanu means sun. And you know how these Vedic names go. People who have so many children, like even Krishna, he had 10 children from each wife. And then after a while, even Krishna runs out of imagination. So it's like Charu, Sucharu, Vicharu, Charu Charu, whatever. So Vrishabhanu's brother were like Bhanu, Prabhanu, Bhanu Bhanu, Abhanu, Vrishabhanu. I don't remember them. But he was Vrishabhanu, rain and sun. And Radharani was a sun worshipper. She would worship the sun by, I think, family tradition, but really as an excuse to get out of the eyes of his mother-in-law, so that at noon she could meet with Krishna at Radhakund and worship the real sun, as we can conceive. Finally. Okay, well, I'll just end on this romantic note. I just said that, the sunset is taking away our life. And yet, you could think of the sun. As a matter of fact, it's one of my favorite things to do. During the rainy season here, the sun gets all reddish at sunset because of the refraction through the atmosphere, the whatever. When there are tiny, puffy, sheep-like clouds, they get dark. They're like a bluish, darkish, really Krishna complexion, like you see in those Mughal miniatures. Krishna is that weird dusky blue, and then on the bottom they're illumined by this coppery, pinkish Aruna color, and so they say that that's the color of Krishna's feet. You just seen a cloud, a bluish cloud with reddish, pinkish bottoms. And so you're seeing Krishna's feet. Or sometimes Krishna's eyes, the inside of his eyes is colored by, which, to me, it feels like he's got conjunctivitis. But in Vedic poetry, it's attractive if somebody has red inside of their eyes. And that's also the coppery color of the sun at sunrise or sunset. And so even in that song I wrote for Mangalarati, there are 2 or 3 references to the sun, this color, Aruna. Aruna means peach, salmon, saffron. It's like orange, rust, not something like this color. And incidentally, it is said to be the color that corresponds with Sakyaras. So I'm going to end on this very beautiful note. And next month, or whenever I can find a hole in the calendar, somehow we will be talking about the pigeon as our guru. I mean, the teaching is quite clear. The teaching behind the story of the pigeon is quite clear. It's just dry and very, pedantic. But let's reserve the magic for next time. Let's see how we can make it sweet in a Gaudiya Krishna conscious way. So thank you all for listening. Whoever you are, I don't see anybody. Oh, Brajasundar is there. Whoever will see this class in the future, thank you for your patience, and let's all be enthused, prachodayat, by this sun ray. Today is a beautiful sunny day, and let's keep in mind all these things we talked about. There's no way you cannot be Krishna conscious sooner or later. All right, I'm going to end here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Guru Maharaj ki jai.